Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 2022 Fairfield Leadership Graduation and Presentations. I want to, first of all, congratulate all of you for what we have accomplished this year. Let's give yourself a round of applause. I have no doubt that we have built a fantastic group of leaders for our community. A few thank yous. First and foremost, I want to thank your employers for sponsoring you in our program, for supporting you throughout the year, letting you be out of the office once a month, spending some time also working with your groups and your nonprofits. So we really appreciate the support of our employers that are sponsoring individuals in the program. I want to also thank the Fairfield County Workforce Center. They've hosted us all year. Let's give them a round of applause for their accommodations. I want to thank our moderators, Ron Collins and David Uhl, for all their help this year. We certainly appreciate them being part of our program each and every year. Also, our presenters throughout the year that have helped provide some leadership training for us. Wendy Travis with Fairfield Medical Center, Matt Weidman at Fairfield Federal. We've got David Uhl, who I mentioned earlier. Mike, thank you. Yes, thank you. We've got Mike Pettit from Lancaster City Economic Development, Stephanie Bosco from Lancaster City Economic Development, also Rick Zabrak, Rick's in the back, and of course Ron Collins providing some training for us as well. And finally, I'd like to thank really a really important person as part of this program, and that's Cheryl Barber, who has been the administrator of the program all year, and she's done a fantastic job. Let's give her a round of applause. Well, without further ado, we're going to begin our presentations for our nonprofit organizations that we partnered with this year. And first up for the presentations is the team that worked with the Refuge this year.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are the Refuge team. Our team consists of myself, I'm Michelle Brock, and I'm with Lancaster Bingo Company, Jill Boone with the Fairfield County Common Pleas Court, Anitra Scott with the City of Lancaster Auditor's Office, and Marco Benincasa with Fairfield Medical Center. Unfortunately, Marco is not able to be with us today. And then our team facilitator is Ron Collins. And we've had the pleasure of working with a great nonprofit organization, the Refuge. And we've been working really closely with Chris Cook, the Director of Development for the Refuge. So before we get into our project, we want to provide a little background information about the organization. The Refuge is a leading faith-based nonprofit addiction recovery ministry founded in Ohio in 1999. Originally, the Refuge began as a family-run residential ministry in rural Vinton County in southern Ohio. Over the last 2 decades, the Refuge has grown significantly and now operates from multiple locations, one in Columbus and one here in Lancaster. As a nonprofit, the Refuge provides a 4-phase, 13-month men's residential addiction recovery program and is offered free of charge for the individuals accepted into the program. At the Refuge, individuals live in a structured group environment designed to facilitate transformational change, providing intentional opportunities for mentoring, life coaching, job training, and camaraderie among the participants. Individuals that complete the program have more than a year clean and sober, full-time employment, safe and affordable housing, reliable transportation, and meaningful community connections and relationships. As a nonprofit, the Refuge program is supported by financial grants, local supporters, and corporate partners. These have come from leading and reputable organizations such as the State of Ohio, the Ohio Governor's Office of Faith-Based Initiatives, and the Columbus and Fairfield County Foundations, and these are just to name a few. So with the support of the Refuge corporate partnerships, they are able to provide part-time and full-time employment for the individuals in the program. Again, as mentioned, the program is 100% free of charge and no insurance is required. So the support from these grants, state and local supporters, and corporate partners are vital to the Refuge's operations.
Okay, now that we've learned a little bit on the mission and the background, I'm going to talk about the plan on expanding their facilities. The Refuge has a solid plan to execute this in 3 phases, or stages, I apologize. Stage 1 has already started in March of this year. They've had groundbreaking here in Lancaster, and, Stage 2 will focus more on the infrastructure of, I apologize. Stage 1 is the infrastructure for the Lancaster facility, and Stage 2 is more of the building for Columbus, and Stage 3 is for the building of the Lancaster facility. Together, these will provide over 25,000 square feet for living, dining, sleeping, and living quarters for over 81 men. And that is 46 men in Columbus and 35 men in Lancaster. And then our groundbreaking for the Lancaster facility will be in 2023 after all the infrastructure is already started and we're finished up with that. With the Lancaster amenities that are going to be there, they have sleeping and bath and laundry facilities and the full commercial kitchen, and they're going to have large common areas for relaxing and fellowship, so that way they can all kind of join together and be as one, and as well as administrative offices and meeting rooms. Here is the Columbus facility. It's 3 stories high, and as you can see, the floor plan includes all those extra men going to be a part of that. This one here, you can see that there is the Lancaster farmhouse that is being the plan for that one. All of the men actually work in the facility itself and try to take care of each other, so as well as rely on each other. When our team originally met with Chris Cook from the Refuge, we learned a lot about the Refuge missions, their future plans, and to accommodate other men and that are in need for a new beginning. So we kind of went through on community education and awareness as a way that we can help provide information and get it out there to others, so that way, because not a whole lot of, we didn't even know about it when we first started. We learned through Chris, and then actually getting the word out there through different religious areas. The Refuge does, like we've learned, they do not charge for their men in the program, and it's all offered free of charge. Not even the insurance is involved. The program was financed through donors' grants, and with the men having 100% of job placement when they're there through the program, they leave, or with the job placement, the men voluntarily provide all but $100 of their wages back to the program, so that way they give the opportunity to other men like them that are in need of help. So that way their program is free of charge. And then with that goes into our expansion of the donor and referral base to get the word out there for them and help the Refuge in that area. And with that, we offered to help where we could and generate the interest with our community.
Thanks, Nitra. So after our initial meeting, we had a couple internal group discussions and brainstorming sessions about how we could tie those three goals together, basically awareness, education, and expansion. And we came up with 2 action plans or 2 initiatives that we wanted to work with the Refuge in order to further those goals. The first was to create a faith-based leadership listserv. And the second was to organize an open house for community and faith-based leaders. And we'll go into a little more detail about each of those projects, as well as how it ties into those goals in the following slides. So first of all, we worked together to research and compile a comprehensive listserv of all faith-based organizations within Fairfield County and surrounding areas. And the reason behind that is the Refuge is a faith-based organization. And so that target audience is important for the Refuge for both referral services and for donor solicitations. So what we did was we researched, we did not only just the church's name and address, but we tried to find specific contact information, whether it's a lead pastor or director of operations, a phone number and an email address in an Excel spreadsheet. And the thought behind that was to create something that's easy to use that can be built on in the future for mail merges, email blasts, things like that, for them to send out both newsletters, initiatives, donor requests, or referral resources. So an example of that spreadsheet is here. As you can see, I was surprised with how many faith-based organizations we had in Fairfield County, but that was kind of the first step of our project. The second initiative that we had was that we organized an open house for both faith-based leaders and government officials. That is scheduled for next Thursday, which I'm really excited about. We worked with the Refuge to help further that in a few ways. Once we came up with kind of a checklist to keep the project on time and understand exactly what we were trying to get from the open house. We also drafted a flyer, an invitation, and a proposed agenda. So a couple examples of what we did. Here is the checklist that we kind of went through. Again, we were in close contact with Chris from the Refuge, who was wonderful to work with, and their kind of events team to collaborate on this and make sure that we were checking all of our boxes. We came up with a flyer that was sent out, as well as a letter that accompanied that flyer in order to make sure that the people we were sending it to had information about what the Refuge was trying to accomplish. And the really cool thing about it was that we were able to marry both of our projects together because we sent all this information out through the listserv we created, which just kind of went to show how many different uses we can have for that, that information. So the results, how it ties back to the Refuge's 3 goals from our initial meeting, community education, awareness, and expansion of that donor and referral base. Both the listserv and the open house accomplish those goals because it's a way for the Refuge to stay in contact with an audience that makes the most sense for the Refuge, not only in soliciting donors, but to make sure that the community as a whole is aware of what they're doing. Their success rates are astronomical. Coming from someone within the court system who has experience with substance abuse treatment programs, they have an extremely successful program. It's one of Fairfield County's, I think, best kept secrets, unintentionally kept secrets maybe. And so using the listserv and the open house to get people within their doors, in their facilities, to have a personal connection with them is going to foster that long-term buy-in and support.
Thanks, Jill. So in closing, we want to thank all of you for joining us today. We want to thank Chris Cook, Director of Development with Refuge, for all of your time and for working with us week to week on our project. We want to thank Ron Cullums, our team mentor and our team facilitator, for his support. A very big thank you to the Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce for holding this great leadership program. Especially thank you to Travis Markwood and Cheryl Barber for facilitating the leadership program and holding all of the monthly meetings. And lastly, thank you to our employers for sponsoring us and allowing us the time to participate in this great program. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, team. Stick around here. We're going to present you with our awards. But before we do that, I'd like to invite Ani Cordell, who is the County Administrator for the Commissioner's Office, to the podium. Again, I mentioned earlier that they provided some certificates of excellence to each of the groups today. So, Ani, would you like to address the group?
Oh, sure. Put me on the spot there, Travis. Yeah. All right, good afternoon, everybody. It is so exciting to see everybody here for the purpose of the leadership program. Such an important aspect. We definitely believe in this program and have a number of our employees here participating. So excited to see that, and congratulations. How long's the program, Travis?
It's about a 9-month program.
9 months. Okay, so everybody going, phew. So congratulations to everybody, and I look forward to hearing all the projects.
Okay. Oh, I need my list. All right, so we'll now recognize completion of the class for the following individuals. If you'll step forward to accept your certificates. We have Anitra Scott. Congratulations, Anitra. Thank you. Marco could not be with us today, but we have Michelle Brock. And of course, Jillian Boone. Thank you. Congratulations.
We are here representing Bike Buckeye Lake. We want to thank Terry and Bill for giving us the opportunity to work with them and to learn more about their organization. My name is Melanie Culbertson. I am an eligibility supervisor with Fairfield County Job and Family Services. Up here with me also is Gretchen. She's an office manager with Fairfield Heating and Cooling. Shannon, who is a multimedia sales executive with Gannett, which is part of the USA Today Network and Local IQ. And then Josh, who is the compliance coordinator with Fairfield Medical Center. So for those of you who don't know, Bike Buckeye Lake is a nonprofit organization whose purpose is to develop a multi-use trail which runs through Fairfield, Licking, and Perry counties and goes around the entirety of Buckeye Lake. What they do every year, they have a Tour to Buckeye Lake annual cycling event. They have an annual Christmas bike giveaway. They do community trash pickup throughout the year. And new to this year, they are hosting a golf outing. So our task was to assist them in attracting corporate donors to support a $5 million project, which will expand the current trail around the lake. So what we're going to talk about today is modernizing the website through the assistance of an intern or a current employee, enhancing community engagement and reputation through an improved social media presence such as Loom, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and generation of continuous income, which is what traditionally sustains nonprofits. So I'm going to turn it over to Shannon, who's going to talk about the website.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm Shannon Trowbridge, and what you'll see here is this is a tool that I have access to for every business basically across the United States. And what we found here with Bike Buckeye Lake is that there's things that they're really doing great at as far as their overall digital presence, but there's also things that could benefit and help them. So when you look at this, you're looking at a score of 37 out of 100. What this is your quality score. If you're not familiar with this on Google, Bing, and Yahoo, this basically puts you against your competition in the marketplace. The higher quality score that you have as a business, the higher you're going to come up organically in the rankings. So kind of think of a spider. There's multiple different components to their legs, so it's really about really climbing the web, right? So I wanted to bring this to your attention because, there is a lot of room for growth as far as, how we can brand your, Buckeye Lake, reach out to those donors, sponsors, and really engage them, with everything that you guys have to offer. So the next slide that I really want to speak about is the website. So when you go to the website, there's a lot of different things that are going on. And I really want to kind of just streamline that and really make it easier for individuals, especially those individuals who are going to donate, because these are really, we're targeting B2B, a lot of businesses, corporate businesses. So really, with that being said, there's 5 different tabs. The first tab we really want to talk about will be the home tab. This will talk about who we are as Buckeye Lake, and also the mission statement, and have a drop down for each within the tab, which would be the About Us, Board of Directors, Accomplishments, and then also the routes and the maps around the lake. The second tab would be our current sponsors. The third tab would talk about events, and these events would be happening for 2022. Right now, I'm only seeing a couple of those events on the site, so I want to make sure that we, honor all of the events that you guys have to offer, because there's really some great videos that you have too as well. So we have the Tour Day Lake, Buckeye Giveaway, golf outing, and then also community trash pickup. On tab 4, this will be how you can support us. Within each individual drop down, we would have donate. Within the donate tab, I would actually make the link larger so that you can see that at the top of the page, so individuals can make donations, but also embed your running total of donations year to date and how much you guys currently still need. Then we would have the sponsors, the partners, the volunteers, et cetera, there for tab 4. And then tab 5 would just really be about the contact us, where we'd have the form fill page to contact Bike Buckeye Lake, but also include an email address on the page and add a phone number. One thing that I also found was in the right-hand corner, I highly recommend on each individual page of the website to have your Facebook logo, so just the actual Facebook logo there. So these are just little minor tweaks as far as with your current site, and that's from the help of, an intern like we spoke about previously. So that was the first thing that I wanted to speak about. But kind of moving into the social media, this is what we call Loom. This is actually a software. So when you're really trying to engage and target email data lists, if it's through internal to gain retention, new business, we thought it'd be a great idea for you and Terry to develop a roughly 30-second video on the why us, and how to come help out at the lake. And so what this video does is it would blast out to those individuals with an email. Then from there, you can see how many individuals open the email versus read versus watch the whole video. It has all the data and analytics there for you. But I really think this is eye-catching, and it really talks about how you can really tell your story in 30 seconds within the enhancing with Loom, which is part of a social media app. Okay, and then next I have here's Gretchen.
Thank you. And I am going to be talking about the social media and the importance of increasing Bike Buckeye Lake social media presence. We all know that social media is a fantastic tool that can be used to promote a business. It has taken the world by its horns, and it continues to thrive. Some of these types of medias would include Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. And depending on your platform you choose to use, it can be a free, inexpensive tool to help your business grow. And how would that happen is obviously it's a free tool. You can reach large amounts of people within minutes. You can interact and engage with your audience and potential donors, post videos and pictures and share them immediately. Respond to posts instantly, and with that, build a community. Involve your local businesses. One of the biggest things that we had talked about was getting involved with the local Buckeye Lake businesses and getting engaged with them to help network each other. Now, I know I've always thought of Facebook as being a more personal and individualized platform, but it actually has over 200 million businesses that trust in it to build and sell their brand. This information has led us to influence Buckeye Lake to be aware of its Facebook presence and the importance of networking, especially with those local businesses. As an example, following them on Facebook will allow them to open their networking doors and create a way to solicit donations. Fans can be turned into mailing lists, and audiences can be targeted, like sending links to the bikers about the upcoming ride-along or a sign-up sheet to your fellow golfers. With the help of an intern or a seasonal worker, we've suggested that Buckeye Lake utilize Facebook to its maximum capacity. Another great tool that Bike Buckeye Lake can use to promote their mission is LinkedIn. Unlike Facebook, LinkedIn is a professional platform designed to help establish and reinforce business relationships. It is the largest professional networking site in the world, and it hosts over 500 million members in over 200 countries. And like I mentioned, it is used to connect and strengthen professional relationships, and joining groups will allow you to meet others with similar interests. Taking part in discussions will also allow you to gain access to other people's profiles and allowing new connections to be able to build your awareness and what your mission is. By gaining access to other people's profiles, Bike Buckeye Lake will have the contacts they need to solicit the bigger corporate donors that they are seeking. It can also broaden their target audience to include not only cyclists, but also walkers, runners, and nature lovers. Setting up a LinkedIn account will be Bike Buckeye Lake's first step to getting them more online exposure and create a direct approach to bring awareness to what they are ultimately trying to achieve, $5 million. And with that, I'm going to pass this along to Josh.
So the third and final piece to the equation is ultimately about raising money. And rather than reinventing the wheel, what we did is we looked to other nonprofits who've had it mastered. And up here you kind of see three examples. That first picture is from Fairfield Medical Center. They display a poster of all their donors and the amounts that they've donated over the years. Second one's from Ohio State. They have a brick program. Folks can buy bricks and they lay them every year. And then the third, Pelotonia, they list their donors in kind of a public fundraising profiles. So what we gather from this is really two themes from what these three do. Ultimately, they publicly recognize their donors and the amounts that they've given. And then they ultimately recognize that this is about raising money. You're not going to build the Bike Buckeye Lake Trail without all these donors. That's the really important piece. So, what's our proposal? Ultimately, we recommend that Buckeye Lake tracks their donors and the amounts. Currently, they're not tracking the amounts, and we think that's the really important piece that they can end up turning into one of these next three bullets. And ultimately, we think that they should just go ahead and use one of the top three methods that we've seen, and that's the first one is maybe a fundraising tracker on the Bike Buckeye Lake's website. So we kind of envision it as like a meter. That way, folks, when they go to the website, they're seeing how much ultimately they need to finish the project and where they're at. Essentially a gauge. The second one, possibly a fundraising brick program. I really can see donors being inspired to give money so that they see their name memorialized on the path. And then lastly, and one of the last options it would be trailhead donor recognition posters, similar to what FMC has done. We recognize also that that option might be limited by ODNR, but we hope that maybe there'd be another location for them to be able to do that and raise money. And what this does is ultimately, we're inherently selfish, and so we think that once they implement one of these three methods, corporate donors and individual donors are going to come because ultimately they want to be memorialized and have their name on a brick, a poster, or the website. And this summarizes what our strategy is for Bike Buckeye Lake to engage their donors and ultimately get more corporate donors. The first one is modernize the website because it's akin to the resume. So that first impression is important. Improving social media presence. That way their donors or potential donors kind of have a sense of the pulse of the organization, know that they're engaged and active. And lastly, just have a method for generating income and recognizing donors. And that's it. Thank you very much.
All right, well done, team. Hang tight for here for a second. I know you're dying to get away from the spotlight there, but we'll present you with your awards here. When we call your name, just please step forward. Melanie Culberson.
I stepped forward too quickly. That's all I was doing.
Right. You had it down. All right, Shannon Tobridge. Joshua Gonzalez. And Gretchen Matthews. Again, congratulations, team. We'll have you go over here and get a picture, okay?
Want to thank everybody again for being here today, allowing us to do our presentation. As you can see on our first slide, we are using with the nonprofit of the Lancaster Playhouse. My name is Todd Kaufman. I am with Park National Bank. I'm one of our branch managers there. Levi George here with me. He is part of Job and Family Services. Heather Shields, who was not able to be here today, had an emergency. She is also with Job and Family Services. Once again, a few months ago when we were able to start with our Fairfield leadership class, we were having the ability to work with the Lancaster Playhouse. Just a really quick recap of who they are. The Lancaster Playhouse is a nonprofit community organization dedicated to promoting the theater arts in Lancaster and the surrounding areas. Their mission is to create a theatrical experience that will entertain, inspire, and challenge our audiences, their actors, and their volunteers as well. When they came to us a few months ago, they had a project to improve and implement business operations to make the Lancaster Playhouse more efficient, allowing them to grow and thrive by means of improved communication and year-round engagement. Also with ongoing outreach, would attract and retain people with a variety of skills from all areas of the community. So what we're going to do now is allow Levi to go into the area that he was able to help them in.
Thanks, Todd. Like you said, my name is Levi George. I come from a technical background, so most of the stuff that you're going to see here is mostly practical things like, hey, here's a system you can use. The three things I mainly tackled were contacts management, folder organization, and just some general systems recommendations. So that first one, contacts management, it had several issues that we tried to hone in on and then really tackle. So they had multiple spreadsheets of contacts, like, hey, here's a spreadsheet of volunteers, here's a spreadsheet of donors. So we were just trying to condense that. They also had different groups and roles and different things. So it was just kind of a hodgepodge of different contact management systems and organizations. So there was a lot of overlap and inconsistencies. So one of the recommendations that we did was to just condense it and have a master sheet. Make it one spreadsheet, all of your contacts inside of there. So if one person's a donor and an actor and fill in your groups and roles, they all fall in that one line, and you can just have a condensed version of all your contacts. So again, very practical solution. Just get rid of all these other miscellaneous contacts, spreadsheets, whatnot, and just have a master one. Another thing that we kind of went through is actually just literally using, because we ended up using Google Sheets as their means of managing this contact system. So kind of just get a little bit of coaching of like, hey, this is how you can build all your columns, and you can actually group these columns for a category. Like, these are your columns for donors, these are your columns for actors, and you can fill in all the roles. And you can actually literally group those together. That's kind of what this example is showing. And you have a little plus or minus to kind of condense those or expand them as you want to see them. So again, just grouping the columns by sections that make sense for the contacts. There's only one single contact, and they just have multiple things filled in just to reduce all that clutter. And then the next thing we talked about was just general folder organization too. They use the Google Suite for their kind of operations. So they have Google Drive. Google Drive is a good tool if you use it right. So they had a hodgepodge of folders and drives and whatnot. So he's like, condense that, reduce it, get one drive, and make sure you're just using that one guy. Excuse me. They also had some inconsistent labeling, loose files, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. So these are the 3 problems we kind of identified with their folder organization, and we just kind of tackled each one. So again, the very first beginning was when you have a system that you need to organize. That first layer is key, it's critical. So we had to make sure that that first layer of folders was categorized, separated, and just very, organized. Because if you have a hodgepodge of folders and you don't know which one does what, then it's not helping you. So, and then just have those folders nested. So if you have a folder for administration, all of your stuff that's administration based should just go in that folder and just work your way in. And then, like I said, loose files. So when you use Google Drive, you've got all your folders and then all your files inside of that folder. Those loose files, if they were in the wrong place, like let's say you have a bill, that should probably go in your administration folder and not just be sitting somewhere in Google Drive. So we said find all those loose folder files and put them in the correct folder. And then the last little bit that I had, basically some general systems recommendations. They had a lot of systems that they were exploring, like, hey, we kind of use this, we kind of use this. It's like, reduce that, you're already kind of struggling, so condense what you're trying to use the basics. And then, excuse me, the current systems permissions was another thing we had to talk about. Excuse me. So one of the systems that they were talking about was Constant Contact, because they were trying to struggle with all those contact systems and whatnot. So like, let's not even talk about that, take that off the table for now. Keep using Google Suite, keep using Google Drive, and trying to manage with that master sheet that we've talked about. The rule of thumb for them was basically just simplify. You have a lot of stuff going on, and you need to get organized. The best way to get organized, reduce, simplify. As we kind of dove into this, it was interesting. They didn't even have their own permissions to the systems they were trying to use. So a very obvious recommendation, make sure you're an owner of the systems you have. So they had a gentleman who built all their systems for them. He was kind of the admin, the owner of that stuff. So you should probably talk to that guy and get you guys, the board members, access, full permissions to these systems. And then another thing to consider is they actually have like files and systems that they share with their volunteers. Make sure those systems are separate from their board members. Other considerations, this is just kind of like a wrap up. Do some training. So they only had a couple board members to begin with, and so they're all kind of burnt out. Spread the load out, make sure they're all trained in these systems that we've kind of suggested and kind of implemented. And then just, again, further consolidation of resources. If you have so many things in just a limited board, you're going to get strung out. So reduce and then document everything so you're not starting over every single time. Did you want to talk about Heather's stuff? Okay. So obviously I'm not Heather Shields. Her portion was basically to talk about templates that she had built for them. She had built 3 of them. I don't know all the details about them, so I'll give you a kind of a overarching. Basically, the Playhouse, how they work is, obviously they make plays and stuff. And they were kind of starting over every single time they would make a play. So it just feels like a lot of work just to get the ground and back up and running. So Heather had built some templates that kind of help guide that process of getting a play ready, getting things moving. And so basically just saying, hey, use these templates, use them as historical references so that way you can, get a little bit off the ground quicker and easier as you make another play over and over. Excuse me. Yeah, Todd, good.
So who I was able to work with, and we had a meeting, is with Jane from the Lancaster Playhouse. I'm kind of in the same boat she is when it comes to technology. So this stuff is kind of like a deer in the headlights in this. So where I wanted to bring value in and what I'm, I don't want to say good at, but I've had a lot of experience in it, is just the communication part of it. Whether it's a Lancaster Playhouse or it's anything that we're doing, there's always a start and there's always a finish. And the communication part and the outreach is areas that I wanted to work with them in. Also with the just the board development and also utilizing the tools that are available to them. So with the communication and outreach, it's kind of what Levi was talking about. When a show starts, it's communicating with people on what your role is and what part you play in that. What we realize and just communicating with them is how this stuff is so similar to just everyday things. And what he was saying is you had one or two people doing 90% of the work. So the communication with people and just letting people realize and know what we're doing, what entails in that job, and just being willing to ask for the help. That was the communication with that. The outreach was just utilizing their tools of what they had, but also using social media, using those networks in that just to be able to promote something and having, the anticipation of what's going on and what to expect from that. Once again, as Levi was talking about, developing your board, they had a very small board, and it's trying to diverse your board. So what they were wanting to look at is, workshops of just trying to set the presence of what this looks like and utilizing people's strengths. So it's not putting somebody in a spot where they're weak, but utilizing their strengths in those areas and developing a board and just being willing to know what to do and taking the initiative and the accountability of doing that. Which just really just ties us right back in to utilizing the tools of setting up the different files, the different things that they have to be able to use to make those contacts, to set those expectations. And that one thing that I didn't touch on there is utilizing your volunteers. Knowing what you're going to be doing when you're there, but then also taking that feedback at the end of a show. Sometimes taking that constructive criticism that is hard for us, but having that humility to know that why it's done and how we're able to grow from that. And, what we're hoping and knowing is that if they get familiar with the tools, they utilize this, they utilize the communication, through time, it will develop them, it'll help them. And like we said at the very beginning, it will allow them to be not only an impact here in Fairfield County, but also in the surrounding areas. Once again, we thank you guys, and that's it.
All right, great job. We're going to have David Uhl help us present this round of certificates. And so I want to congratulate, if you will, step forward, Levi George. Levi. Of course, they already mentioned Heather unfortunately couldn't be here today, but we also have Todd Kaufman. So congratulations, guys.
So I am Jessica from Fairfield Medical Center. I have Jenna from Connection West and Marcus from Fairfield Medical Center. And Alec could not be here with us today from Coughlin Kia. So just a little bit about Young Professionals of Lancaster. They strive to aid young professionals in developing a sense of ownership in Lancaster and Fairfield County by providing unique avenues for service, networking opportunities, and pathways to community leadership. They were established in 2010, and their membership is free. So the Young Professionals of Lancaster have different objectives: promote growth professionally, socially, and civic duty. They have help increase your social interaction, career and business networking, and they do some community service. It's all listed there. So Young Professionals of Lancaster, their target members are young professionals ages 21 to 40 that are employed by a business that is a member of the Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce. So that's their picture, and then the two circled here are the ones that we worked with for Andrea and Nicole. The steering committee is all listed here, different areas in the community that they work for. And then, oops, sorry. Also on there is their 2022 calendar of events. So you can kind of see all the different things that they do. They do different luncheons, happy hours, casual hangouts, yoga sessions, power breakfasts, and they do an annual toy drive.
All right, so we had the opportunity to do market analysis for YPL, and living in Lancaster or the surrounding communities myself rather recently, I was unsure and never heard of this company before, or organization. So it was really refreshing to see the digital footprint that they actually have and the impact that they can have if they broaden that footprint more for new community members like myself to know about the organization rather than finding out about it and this unique opportunity that we have here. So one of the things that you find in their marketing analysis with their digital footprint is that they're really big into philanthropy, and they also provide the ability for individuals to market and to network with each other, really providing that growth opportunity for leadership for individuals learning to make that next step in their professional growth. But the limited aspect of their market footprint is that this is basically what you have on the slide here are the three main areas, and they're all linked together. So in regards to an organizational footprint, it is rather small, and I think it could be more impactful if we broaden that footprint. So that was one of the ideas that we had when we were looking up the different aspects of their market footprint. So the goal when meeting with them was to establish community outreach. So as Jessica kind of stated, they do philanthropy in a lot of different areas. They do toy drives, they do food drives for the holidays, including Thanksgiving. They colored Easter eggs and made Easter egg baskets. So they're not really niched into one particular area. So it didn't come as a surprise when learning all of this that they wanted to do a community garden outreach because that's just another avenue of reaching the community. So that was one of their main ideas, and this idea actually happened before we were able to network with them. So looking through some of those marketing footprints, they actually had a donation drive. It was a paint and plant, I think, a catchy title, back in August of 2021. Basically in the downtown Lancaster area, people could come in, they could paint, and a certain proceed would go toward this initiative. So we were kind of teed up per se with a project that was considered a slam dunk because a lot of the YPL already did all that heavy groundwork to get this off the road for us. So that is when we kind of look to see how can we be part of this project and how can we make it successful and reach more individuals. So we kind of went through and gathered research, did a SWOT analysis, a marketing analysis, and then we took a massive pivot. So we'll get to that pivot point at the end. Try not to do any spoiler alerts for that for you. But I know there are a couple groups that are here that work in organizations that do food banks or that do food drives. I think there's another organization that will be presented on today that will have a lot of this data. But just some of the highlights on that is that there are currently 13 officially registered food banks that serve Ohio, and I think we all know that there are a lot more than that, but there are different avenues that you can register through. But it is apparent and should be known to everyone that food scarcity and with inflation, it's just becoming more difficult for families to have access to food and to have access to healthy food. So that was one of the directions that we wanted to go, was to make sure that we could impact the community and allow those community members to have access to this, while also taking a direction potentially of how can we provide a leadership aspect of this, where could we establish something where we grow the food and then we sell it at the farmer's market. So these were all different ideas that we were thinking, but it was kind of striking just to know that Fairfield County in itself has such a food scarcity within our population. And one of the striking things is that if you focus just on children, because it's easier to have empathy, I suppose, on children than adults, unfortunately, but there are 5,770, I think, children that are considered not to have the proper nutrition. And of that large group,
only 33% of that group, or 33% of the group, don't even meet the poverty guidelines to be eligible for federal assistance or state assistance. So of those 5,000 kids, there's a large portion that is not going to get any help at all. And that's where something like this community garden could have such a profound impact. And if you look at the Lancaster Gazette, there's articles about other individuals and communities coming forward to try to make an impact on this. So we were going to try to enter a somewhat crowded space, but a somewhat niche area. So we had to look to see what kind of target population were we going to look at, and who did we want to impact the most on this. So we looked into the community, and we wanted to partner with like Boys and Girl Scouts Clubs of America, maybe with local food bank centers so we could donate. There was talks about having a give box where you could grow and someone could sponsor a bed and put the food into a give box where people could come and take it as they need. I know there are some in the community that are already out there. Unfortunately, you see more like book boxes than you see food boxes, but literacy is rather important as well, I suppose. But food maybe comes first in that Maslow hierarchy of needs, I think. That was a long time ago when I was in school for that, but we do have the opportunity to, as I mentioned earlier, for the Lancaster's food market as well. So again, the professional group provide us, again, they teed us up with an opportunity to be successful with this. They gave us two options on how could we do this garden, where can we have it in Lancaster. The first one is a old gas station, which is no longer there. It's on Main Street. That is now just a grass pad, which is quite nice. So we had the opportunity to decide between that location or the AHA or AHA Hands-On Learning Adventure. For those of you who don't know, that's located behind the mall right now. They moved, I think, 3 or 4 years ago and have a beautiful space back there. So we had two areas. That was like our hardest decision on which awesome area do we want and which free area do we want to use. So it's not our project was going pretty easy for us at this time. So we looked at the Main Street. It was a land lease. It was free. So that was wonderful. And I mean, you guys know the price of everything right now. Space is a hot commodity, so having something free is obviously wonderful. It's located on a really main road, Main Street. Insert symbol there for the joke. It is a vacant lot, and but the only problem with that is we would require all materials. So basically, we just get grass. Now, AHA is a facility that already has a garden, and many of you may not be aware of that because it was a garden that was run by the agriculture program at OSU. Well, they vacated it. It was called Julia's Garden, so it's already fenced in. There's already beautiful planter beds there. There's already walking paths. So all we would have had to do is roll our sleeves up, pull some weeds out, plant the free vegetables in the dirt, and God does the rest, right? So that would have been wonderful if we would have chosen that, but there were a lot of restrictions. So AHA only wanted us to go into this workspace. They only wanted us to go in this space when they allowed us. So that really restricted the amount of community feel, allowing people to come in. So in the end, in the SWOT analysis, we put together and decided that we thought the Main Street location would be better. And it would be better selfishly a little bit because we were going to partner with Fairfield Medical Center's dietary and nutrition plan, and that's relatively close to the hospital. So we could have foot traffic from the hospital, foot traffic from employees. We can bring more people to this space. The space also provides us the ability to have food trucks. So food trucks could come in. They could build a covered patio. People could do their lunch breaks there, and it's located by multiple other businesses. I think Advanced Auto Parts right there. So you could have corporate gatherings on Main Street as long as you don't mind the loud exhaust and rumbling bass music that sometimes goes through Main Street, if any of you have ever eaten downtown. But it would be an opportunity, and what a wonderful opportunity it would be because it would be free other than the equity that we put into it. So the one threat, though, that we had is that that the land lease space was literally a free lease. So we could invest all this, we could add this infrastructure, but then we could lose the space in 2 years. So that's a pretty significant threat if you're talking about spending other people's money that they donated. So
we looked out to price out the cost of fencing, raised flower beds, sheds, supplies. We had donations. We had a hard count donation that was closer to about $3,000, but a potential donation that ranged all the way up to the $8,000 mark. And we had a healthy range of donations that the professional group had already established. The one thing that I thought was neat by the healthy range is about 59% of those donations were from private individuals, so just concerned community members that want to give back, leaving that 41% being from larger organizations donating money. So there was definitely more of an opportunity to tap in to get more money if we were going to head that direction. And then we also talked about, is there opportunity to maybe reduce the barriers and not have fencing per se to reduce the cost, but to have more of a natural barriers, making Lancaster more beautiful while impacting the community's health. So we'll talk about barriers a little bit more, which is where the pivot comes in.
Thank you, Marcus and Jessica. So I'm going to recap a little bit on the spaces that we had, just because they are part of the barriers. AHA is a great space. It's already there and ready to go, but just for the vision and purpose of community garden, it wouldn't be fitting. So to look at the land bank, that's also a great option. It's there, it's green grass, it's ready to go. However, with inflation, it was going to be like $1,400 just to get a fence. And we just didn't feel like it'd be safe not to have a fence in that specific area with all of the flow of traffic. And again, you invest all this time and money, and in 2 years it could not be yours. So we went ahead and decided to make a pivot. We talked with Andrea and Nicole and talked about different ways we could bring a community garden to Lancaster without having to physically build a community garden at this time. So we considered building some small community garden kits that we could maybe start with giving to the 4-H groups or agricultural groups in schools and high schools. We discussed partnering with even OUL and different community schools. We had the idea of partnering with the workforce development and having that be a trade that they help learn and develop. It's another skill set. And then we also thought it would be good just for the community to have a better understanding of who Young Professionals of Lancaster is. So we kind of made 2 different flyers. We made a community garden flyer, brochure per se. And so it says Canva, but you can insert these pictures to be more personal. So you can change this anytime. This is a free format essentially. And it has different options of ways that we could give the gardening kits, community partners, things if you want to share just awareness of what community garden is envisioned to be this way, but you can make it's nice because you can pull and plug however you'd like. And then we also went ahead and made a Young Professionals of Lancaster flyer. It's really one big long sheeter, but it helps you understand who they are, what they like to do. They like to have fun. They give you a purpose. It helps boost community involvement. They're just so much more than a community garden, and we wanted to share that and help them promote that in a way that brings more awareness. So we just provide them some more flyers and brochures, and that's kind of our biggest pivot. So we just appreciate their time and effort to help us out through this process, and thank you for Chamber of Commerce. Ta-da.
Once again, great job, team. We'll again have David Ull help pass out our certificates here. And I'll call your name if you'll just step forward. Jenna Devereaux. Congratulations. Next we have Marcus Brown. Okay, and Alec couldn't be with us today, but next we have Jessica Neely. All right, congratulations, all.
Good afternoon, everyone. We had the Decorative Arts Center for our project, and moving forward, you will hear us refer to it as DACO a lot. It's a lot easier to say. I'm Sarah Stoughton. I'm with the Fairfield County Foundation. Delaney McElwain with Park National Bank, Jay Matlin with Key Realty, and Jaden Rowland with Vinton County National Bank. So just to give you a little bit of background on DACO, the Decorative Arts Center is a nonprofit museum whose mission is to engage our community, deliver an arts education, and preserve and showcase the architecture and collection that they have been entrusted with. And this is their fabulous executive director, Jason Crable. He joined DACO in August of 2020. He comes to DACO with degrees in library science and anthropology and has spent the majority of his career working in different museums. He comes to DACO from working in history and doing different exhibitions with history and such. And what drew him to Lancaster was Lancaster's rich art history, and he's really looking forward to continuing to put together arts exhibitions and really sharing the arts with Lancaster and beyond.
So when we initially met with Jason, he presented to us their project challenge. After kind of giving us a little background on the Decorative Arts Center, some of us had some knowledge, but not really a broad knowledge of what they offer. So he presented us with his initial challenge, which was their volunteer staff was aging out. Their goal was for us to help grow their volunteer pool, and they were hoping to get a variety of age groups involved. So once we started talking to him and chatting and starting to understand the organization, we started to quickly realize that there was really a lack of knowledge of the Decorative Arts Center in the county. So we wanted to help him grow that knowledge. So we decided to start with a SWOT analysis to identify the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and then the organizational threats. So some of their strengths, the Decorative Arts Center has a really knowledgeable staff. They have interesting exhibitions. They recently hired a program coordinator so they could revamp that. And they had a really rich history with many local organizations. Some of their weaknesses, again, that volunteer pool's aging out. Jason started in the middle of COVID, and he's not from Lancaster, so meetings, events were few and far between, so he didn't have a great opportunity to connect with people. Some opportunities, we went through their social media, and we quickly realized that there was opportunity for personable social media posts. As COVID numbers went down, events, meetings started picking back up, which gave him some opportunity to connect. And they had a really strong client relationship management database that could be better utilized. Some of their threats, the overall lack of knowledge of the Decorative Arts Center, and their volunteer times overlap with the traditional 9-to-5 workday. So after doing the SWOT analysis, we worked on our project approach. We wanted to identify core community groups, and we really wanted to focus on quality rather than quantity. We wanted the groups that we identified to be impactful relationships for DACO and Jason himself. After identifying the community groups, we wanted to build a database of information. We wanted this database to be a resource for Jason and to help connect him. And then we also wanted to provide some additional outreach resources to build community awareness of the Decorative Arts Center as a whole.
So as Delaney mentioned, we wanted to identify some community groups that Jason could connect with and create some meaningful connections between those groups and decorative arts. So the four of us are part of a lot of other organizations in Lancaster and Fairfield County, so we kind of started with those lists and compiling information from those groups that we're already a part of. But we also pulled resources from partners like the Chamber, Destination Downtown Lancaster, and Visit Fairfield County. And on the next slide, you'll see an example of what we created for Jason and his staff, but you'll see that it mainly, the organizations have a focus on community and arts and civics. So this is an example of the spreadsheet that we created for Jason and his staff to use. It includes the organization's name, a good contact person, their email, and a phone number if we could find both of those. We were able, just between the four of us really, to identify 48 organizations that Jason could connect with and just kind of give them a starting point of who to contact and who to work with. we wanted to create the starting point for them to help build and maintain those community relationships that are so important for organizations to have with other organizations, especially since one of the project problems was that they're not able to pull in a lot of new volunteers, and we thought a lot of that was community outreach and just knowledge in general of DACO. And we wanted also to give them this opportunity to get in front of these key groups and actually, meet with these groups and maybe start building some interest with people who are in those groups, because people volunteer where they're passionate. So, if people start to become interested in DACO, that in turn may result in additional volunteers coming in. But we also wanted to give Jason the opportunity to invite these groups to perhaps hold their weekly, monthly, annual meetings at the Decorative Arts Center versus having the meetings where they typically meet, and that puts those groups into DACO so they can actually see the exhibits and see the gift shop and what Jason and his staff do.
All right, so to try and reach and connect with the community, we created a new member and employee questionnaire. We then used this questionnaire to create a board and employee spotlight. What the spotlight will do is show a large range of current involvement already within DACO. And with this questionnaire, we wanted to highlight board members and employees and also find things that resonate with those outside of DACO. We wanted to make social media feel personable. So questions like, why did you get involved? How long have you been involved? And then fun questions like, what is your favorite gift shop item and favorite exhibit? So here's an example of a board member spotlight. With these spotlights, we also wanted to show how those are involved within the community. Kate here is the board president and regional employment manager at Park National Bank. We wanted to include photos because we realized there was an increase in social media interaction, and people are more likely to share something if it is someone they know or just a friendly face. And here's an example of an employee spotlight. Kara here is a museum associate with DACO and also owns her own small business. And again, in each of these spotlights, we wanted to find something that resonates with others. So after presenting this information to Jason, DACO immediately put the Kate spotlight into action, and at face value, you can see likes and shares on the post. But Jason can pull the data and see a much bigger interaction, such as like over 2,500 in total reach between Facebook and Instagram.
All right, so some of the resources that we put together for DACO, they recently did a museum goers survey. It was a general survey used by other museums as well. Only 2 of the questions were DACO specific. We talked with Jason. They got a really great response from that survey, but we saw this as an opportunity to kind of create a community survey that can really narrow down and, get to the base of DACO and, what is going to get those in our community involved with DACO. We can utilize their CRM. They've got a great CRM in place already, and just ask those questions to engage our community in visitor and volunteer interest. So this is just an example of the survey. We made it through Google Docs. It's really simple. It's 10 questions. It's quick. It asks simple questions like, have you been to DACO? Are you a member of DACO? Are you aware of the services DACO has to offer? And then things like, did you know admission to DACO is free? You can visit all the exhibitions that DACO has free of charge. So we just wanted to put that out there, and you can do that by sending it out through the CRM and doing sponsored posts on Facebook to get those results. And then the outcomes from our outreach, again, the community survey, we can get a better understanding of what drives our local community to volunteer, and also, get a better understanding of what would engage our community more with DACO. What do they know about DACO, and what, will get them to DACO? What will get them more involved? And then social media, you can target a large group of people really quickly. And what Jaden said, just kind of reiterating that, you can make the post more personable. People get excited when they see someone they know on social media, and then that just kind of rolls on and goes from there. And the post, like we saw, gets a lot of reach from there.
Alrighty, so to wrap it up, when we presented this to Jason, we talked to him about how we understood that he had a need for a growing volunteer pool. So these were the resources we wanted to provide him. We wanted to help him increase the community awareness, share DACO's mission, what they do, what they offer to our community, and we wanted to help him start building those relationships that would be really meaningful. We talked to him about how we started with a small network of people, and once he connects with that small network of people, that network is going to continue to grow if he maintains those relationships and fosters them. We wanted to utilize the current resources because they really had great resources. We just wanted to give them different opportunities to maybe increase awareness. We also talked to him and said that by sharing the mission, by building these relationships, we feel that a growing volunteer pool is going to be a natural progression because people tend to volunteer where they're passionate, and they don't know that they're passionate until they know about the organization. So talking about the mission, getting the word out there would really be beneficial and should be a natural progression to build that volunteer pool.
So just some other things to consider if you are looking into getting into more community volunteerism, whether it be with DACO or with any other organization. One thing to look at as you go back to your organizations is, does your organization have some kind of history with that organization, with DACO? We found out through the course of working on this project that Delaney works for Park National, and there's a connection there between Park National and the Reese Peters House, and so that was cool to find out. You may also look to see if your organization has some kind of volunteer program that will allow you to go and spend time volunteering at organizations. I know a lot of us do things like United Way's Community Care Day, and we spend an entire day with an organization doing something, but perhaps your organization has a volunteer program available to you that would allow you to be more consistent about volunteering. So instead of volunteering that 8 hours once a year, perhaps you would be allowed to commit to a couple of hours a month working with an organization and volunteer a little more frequently. So that is it. Thank you.
All right, wonderful job, team. Just step forward. I think you've seen a few of these so far. So Ron will help hand out our awards. So we have Sarah Stoughton, Jay Matlin, Delaney McElwain, and Jaden Rowland. Congratulations. You guys just want to step over for a quick picture?
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing us the opportunity to present today. Our team consists of Stevie Gruber with Kumler Collision, Hannah Powers with Benton County Bank, Madison Haynes with Crowd Communications, and myself, Jason Wolf, with Connection West. So we had the privilege of working with Johnny and Friends, which is a local nonprofit here in Lancaster. Fairly new to Lancaster, but they are a worldwide organization. Their mission statement is actually to reach individuals that deal with disabilities to help them find hope, dignity, and their place in the body of Christ. So the founder, Johnny Erickson, began the organization after she herself had to deal with these issues with disabilities. She had a tragic diving accident, and through that she learned how difficult it would be for others, and she wanted to start this organization to help everyone with that. So throughout that time, she was able to write an autobiography, start her own, she had a movie, started a movie, and then had her own radio program as well. She was also able to speak to over 100,000 of people through crusades with Billy Graham. So she was able to get that outreach out there, and it's just grown throughout the world and opened up different small organizations throughout. So I'm going to turn it over to Stevie to give a little more background on what we did for the organization.
All right, so as Jason said, Johnny and Friends is pretty new to Lancaster. They came in May of 2021, and we worked together with JMO, Wally, and Megan on getting their awareness spread through the community. We started with getting a list of organizations, churches, and local businesses together for them. It started out that way, and then after several meetings, we kind of moved into creating an event that they wanted to host. So with that, they used that list of organization to start this event, and it's called Home of Joy Farms. Home of Joy Farms, fun on the farm. So they started Family Fun Day. Oh my goodness, Family Fun Day. So they started with confirming the location at Home of Joy Farms, and they actually adapted the name to Family Fun Day on the farm. Sorry. They use the list of organizations and everything to provide volunteers, items such as a bounce house from Connection West. Fairfield Medical Center provided a community Heart Watch truck. A fire truck from a local fire department came as well, and churches provided food for them, as well as, just to name a few. So from there, we moved into the marketing and advertisement for them, and I'm going to turn that over to Madison for that.
So we began our marketing efforts by focusing on these different key areas. So we have audience and messaging, we did a social media graphic, a social media flyer, and then we also drafted up a press release that they could use. So once the event date and the details were nailed down, we could begin building out our marketing plan. The main portion of this plan was dedicated to developing messaging, audience, strategy, and the overall goal of the event. So strategies included generating public awareness and interest in the organization, communicating the value of the event and the resources that the organization offers, connecting with local organizations for the event, and ultimately aiding the organization in their overall marketing efforts. There was a wide variety of audiences that Johnny and Friends wanted to target for this event. And you can see a few on the slide, such as caregivers, those impacted by disability, business owners, nonprofit organizations, just to name a few. And then at the bottom of this marketing overview, you can see the key messages that were generated around the event. So these were used to help develop those graphics and that press release that we ended up creating for them. So these were the graphics that we created for the event itself. Both the flyer and the social media graphic are the same style and contain the same content just for consistency purposes. So to create these, Johnny and Friends actually sent us over their branding guidelines and standards. So that includes all of their fonts and colors so that we could stay on brand when creating these for them. We wanted it to be warm and inviting and the colors to pop to catch people's attention. And then we drafted a press release to announce the event and give the community some more details about what was happening. So the press release, obviously it contains the date, the time, the location, as well as some of the fun activities that will be featured, like a petting zoo and field games. So once we wrote the press release, we gathered contacts for the organization. So I'm going to turn this over to Hannah to talk about those.
As a team, we gathered some social media contacts, in Fairfield County, so that they could send this press release that Madison just talked about out. A couple examples were the Lancaster Fairfield Chamber of Commerce, Visit Fairfield County, and local newspapers and radio stations. Our outreach We gathered local organizations and businesses around Lancaster for Johnny and Friends to contact so they could get donations and that they can help with their Family Fun Day event. A few that will be attending are Powers Trucking, who provided a dump truck so that the kids could go in and view the dump truck, see how it works, stuff like that. Fair Hope Hospice, who's bringing the popcorn machine, and then Community Heart Watch, they're bringing the CPR trailer so they can teach families about CPR. And then our impact on this, as a team, we put together a final list for Johnny and Friends to use in the future for networking opportunities. So now they have a list of schools, churches, and businesses that they can build relationships with to get their name out in the community more. And then finally, we wanted to thank Johnny and Friends for allowing us to help them, the Chamber for their dedication in helping us, and our employers. So that's it.
Well done, everyone. We'll have our plaques coming up. It's like Cheryl's hustling over. All right, awesome. Cheryl's going to help us out here. So, Hannah Powers.
Thank you. Congratulations,
Hannah. Stevie Gruber.
Congratulations, Stevie.
Jason Wolf. And Madison McClary. Congratulations. We'll have you guys go over here and get a picture.
Good afternoon. I'd like to begin by introducing our team, and then I'll give a little background on our nonprofit. So I'm Felicia. I work for the City of Lancaster. This is Cher. She publishes the Lancaster Living magazine. Then Caitlin works for Fairfield Federal, and Mary works for Fair Hope Hospice. And we were privileged to work with Grace Haven Ministries for our group project. And I forgot our slides, sorry. Okay, Grace Haven Ministries is an addiction recovery organization that was started by Sheriff Dave Phelan and his wife Loretta in 2007 when they saw women struggling with addiction after leaving jails and institutions. A transition to sober living often involves leaving behind former friends and even family, which requires a lot of support and accountability. So Grace Haven's mission is to rescue, renew, restore, and return women to family and community after being set free of addiction through the power of Jesus Christ. Executive Director and House Mom Marianne Hess and other volunteers do this by introducing these women to the unconditional love and forgiveness found in Jesus Christ, providing them with safe housing, spiritual care, counseling, and educational opportunities, and helping them navigate and manage healthcare appointments, probation requirements, and employment. Residents also maintain a very active social calendar with many opportunities for recreation and entertainment in a safe and supportive environment. There is no cost to the women in the program, as the ministry is fully funded by individual donors and local churches. And because of the strong support system and careful management of their funds, the board was recently able to purchase a house in Sugar Grove that is much better suited to their current needs and future goals than the previous house that was in town. Our team was fortunate to be able to tour the property early on and see some of the renovation plans. And then earlier this month, Grace Haven also opened a storefront at 333 South Broad Street, where they sell new and used items by donation only. So if you get the chance, stop by and check it out. They're open Mondays, Fridays, and every third Saturday.
First, I'd like to say that Marianne is incredible and is very dedicated and passionate about all of the ladies that come through Grace Haven. So initially, Grace Haven's main objective was to create a new webpage. Marianne wanted a fresh new look for their nonprofit. Once we had time to sit and talk with her, she shared that sometimes she didn't receive applications when future residents submitted an application through the website. we quickly realized that a new web host would be the best solution to the problem. So our first objective was to find a new web host. From there, we were able to quickly identify the key objectives to reach our goals with Grace Haven. Those included updating and creating a new website to assist new applicants and future residents. We also wanted to help make the website user-friendly so that it was easier to make donations and find information to volunteer. Most importantly, we wanted Mary Ann and her staff to feel comfortable making updates to their new web pages. To summarize our goals, we all agreed that the best way to help Grace Haven Ministries was to focus on the following: changing the website host, transferring current information over from one website over to the new one, making the website more user-friendly by creating links throughout the pages, finding a solution for their JOT form issues that they had, helping with branding throughout the website, adding social media links and contact information, and then helping each and every visitor, including applicants, donors, and volunteers, to navigate Grace Haven's website.
So once we had identified the particular challenges and goals for this project, we began by looking critically at other local nonprofits and business professional websites to see what we liked and what we thought was being done well. By observing how others were using things like color design, logo placement, website layout, and how easy it was to navigate the site, we were able to get some guidance and inspiration for what we hope to achieve with the new and improved Grace Haven website. Mary's coworkers, Alyssa Barnegat and Susan Fogelsong, were invaluable resources during this process. They generously offered their time and experience with marketing and website design to help point us in the right direction. Having assessed what we would like to incorporate into the updated website, we started to explore other website platforms and possible alternatives to JotForm, the program they used for their online applications. We needed to be mindful of potential expenses and how user-friendly these new platforms were. We wanted to make sure that whoever might be managing the website didn't need to have lots of previous website design knowledge. We initially considered Wix and Squarespace as our favorite potential platforms, but ultimately decided to proceed with Squarespace. We particularly appreciated its website templates, how simple customization appeared to be, and its relatively low cost. Also, JotForm was compatible with it, which meant that we no longer needed to find an alternative for Grace Haven's online applications. Once that decision had been made, we, as a team with Mary Ann, chose the initial template we liked best, and then Mary Ann and the women of Grace Haven Ministries set to work building the new project. We met again as a group partway through the updates to assess the progress that had been made and to offer fresh critical eyes as we reviewed the improvements. As we did at the beginning of the project, we looked at what we liked and what we thought could benefit from some further tweaking. We discussed whether we thought the goals we initially set were being fully met and how to improve if they weren't. Mary Ann used these notes to make additional changes, and once completed, the group met once more for final review, made still more few suggestions, and then waited for the website to go live.
So these next 3 slides are some before and after photos of what we changed in the web page. So on the left, you'll see that was the original home page. We added some color. Oops, sorry, I skipped ahead here. Oh, there we go. We added some color, made the links more accessible so that it was more user-friendly for people maybe that were working with their cell phones or trying to access from somewhere besides a computer. So our next slide shows the donation page. It was pretty wordy, had a lot of just things that really weren't pertinent to the donation page. So we added, again, some color, some, the donate would jump out so people would see that to help them with making donations. And then the final page was the application. We tried to make it especially more focused towards cell phone use because most women that are probably going to be trying to apply for coming to Grace Haven for help are probably going to be using a cell phone. A lot of them are homeless. A lot of them don't have access to a computer. So we tried to make that more usable for the people that were trying to access that with a cell phone, because the old application was difficult to maneuver through with your cell phone. So with that being said, we would like to thank our team mentor, David Ull, and Marianne Hess for giving us the opportunity to work with Grace Haven Ministries, and Cheryl for her hard work and dedication to the program. And we'd also like to thank the Chamber for hosting the leadership program and our employers for their support and encouragement in this project.
Great job, guys. All right. So we'll call your name, and Dave will present you with your award. Caitlin Hurdley. Mary Scott. Felicia Fietta. And Cher Jacare.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you for those of you who are still here for hanging with us. And I believe we're the second to last, so we're almost there. My name is Chelsea Huffman, and my team and I had the privilege of working with the Fairfield County Hunger Coalition. So I am joined today by my teammates Nolan, Scott, and Jody, and together we were tasked with coming up with a mission statement for the H3 Hunger Coalition. So a little bit about H3 and Fairfield County 211. H3 is a division of Fairfield County 211. So Fairfield County 211 is a social services organization that basically acts as the connection between people in need and the resources available. So the Hunger Coalition is one facet of Fairfield County 211. The executive director, Jeanette Curtis, gave us her struggle of the Hunger Coalition being so much more than just what one sentence can hold or one mission statement can hold. So H3 is made up of Hunger, Health, and Hope committees. So our main goal was, how do we, in a concise statement, explain to, maybe like in an elevator speech, what the Hunger Coalition does, what all of its pieces and parts do, without getting lost in the details and boring, someone to death who's trying to learn about the Hunger Coalition. So the way we did this, we started with the overall mission statement. We had Jeanette do like a brain dump of the so much more that the Hunger Coalition does besides just focus on hunger. Like I said, the Hunger, Health, and Hope committees are all a part of this coalition. So we started with a general, what does the Hunger Coalition do? And then we kind of developed sub-mission statements for each committee. So in total, we did a general mission statement and then 3 mission statements for each committee. We wanted to give her something tangible though, so we put it together in a pamphlet, which you have. We have the submission statements in there. We have a QR code on the back for you to get involved when you're done. There is an action step involved with this. But we wanted to give her something tangible that she could hand out or put in places where you have brochures or just something that encompasses the so much more that the Hunger Coalition does. So this was kind of our project outcome. But we did a lot of wordsmithing, defining, a lot of Zoom calls with Jeanette, and I will pass over to Nolan to kind of get into the details of what we did.
Thank you. So one of the struggles that we had initially when we first met with Jeanette was, what is food insecurity? So does anyone have a definition of what food insecurity is or what they might think it is?
All right, good. So we weren't like the only ones. So food insecurity, it's kind of multifaceted, and that's part of the reason that the Hunger Coalition, they had trouble synthesizing all the parts that they do. So part of food insecurity is a lack of access to enough healthy food for an active, healthy lifestyle for all household members. That isn't specifically what Jeanette says. That's not your great-grandmother's hunger back in the Depression. This is average working folks. It could be, high earners, middle earners that don't have the time or things like that to go to Kroger's or go to the store and get healthy foods. They're just getting quick go meals. Second is that there's people who have limited or uncertain availability of food, nutritionally adequate foods, and that is kind of your lower end. And it's not so much that they might not be hungry, but they're making a decision on, am I going to go to the grocery this week or am I going to pay my rent? And so that helps. That's part of the food insecurity, is that there's people making decisions on whether or not they're going to eat or they're going to pay their bills. So like Marcus said, Fairfield County does have a strong, or not strong, it's a big problem. And so one of the facts that we had is at least 17,000 individuals in Fairfield County are food insecure. And that's a staggering number. So staggering number, and it's hard to put a face to this problem. And so that's in part why there's different committees. So food insecurity touches mainly on the Hunger Committee and the Health Committee. And so the Health Committee, I'm behind a little bit. So the Hunger Committee is a committee that's focused on identifying readily available resources of food. So it's not necessarily a food bank. So if someone calls Jeanette at Fairfield County 211 and they're working with the Hunger Committee, they're not going to them to pick up a ham, but they're going to say, hey, this church is doing this food drive, or the young professionals are doing this community garden. And so that's what they do. They help provide the resources to help make it sustainable for folks. And with that, I will switch to the health portion.
So of the three silos, the middle silo is the health silo. That's where this would be our submission statement for the health silo: raise awareness for any and all hunger-related issues and debunk the notion that hunger is limited to lack of food. So the health committee, it has two major goals. The first goal is educating low-income families and individuals in our community about their ability to eat healthy on the limited funds they receive through the SNAP program, the food stamp program. The cost of a meal in Fairfield County is approximately $2.80 per person. SNAP provides $1.40 per meal per person. So even though there is a large discrepancy between the cost of a meal in Fairfield County and the amount of assistance folks receive, they want to educate SNAP recipients and show them that healthy eating is an option. They want to teach families that through the knowledge of healthy cooking and eating habits, we can lower the risk of hunger related to health issues such as obesity, diabetes, and heart disease. Their second goal is to provide education and training, opportunities to everyone in the community in regards to hunger and hunger-related health issues so that our community can be healthy and strong. The goal targets the entire demographic of our community, not just low income. Also, please keep in mind that September is Hunger Action Month. So if you scan that QR code, you'll be able to figure out how you can get involved. And I'll pass this on to Jody for the Hope Silo, and she'll wrap us up.
So we've talked about the hunger silo, the health silo, and I'm representing the Hope. The Hope is the present and the future portion of the 211 Hunger Coalition, as far as connecting the current resources that are out there with those in need throughout our community of any income and any demographic. An example is that Jeanette has a laundry list of churches that have volunteers already in place. So if someone calls and says they need to get to the pantry but don't have transportation, the volunteers will take them to and fro from the pantry and give them adequate food for their needs. So within this pamphlet, if you feel so desired, turn to the back here and you can put your phone camera up to the QR code, because it's something fun to do, and scan that. Once that opens up, you'll be led to the website and you can find further information on current programs, upcoming programs that they are going to offer, such as cooking classes or fundraising events, things like that. Also, if there's a silo, the hunger, the health, or the hope that speaks to you, resonates with you more so than others, we would love for you to participate, join one of the committees, and get involved that way. They're always looking for volunteers on a part-time basis, not a major commitment of any means. So we would also just like to thank Jeanette Curtis with the 211. Her, no pun intended, her plate is loaded with things to do, and she does so many amazing things for the community. And we'd also like to thank our employers for this opportunity, as well as the Chamber and Travis and Cheryl for putting this together. It really expanded our networking, our personal growth, and our opportunity to help benefit the community that much more. So, thank you.
I feel like I owe Jody. That was a nice commercial for our program. We appreciate that. But congratulations, good job, guys. Cheryl's going to hand out your certificates here. So first we'll have Nolan Flowers.
Congratulations.
And Scott Sarver.
Congratulations, Scott.
Jody Bird.
Thank you. Congratulations, Jody.
And Chelsea Hoffman.
Congrats, girl.
Well done, guys. Yeah, head over for a quick picture.
All right, well, thank you, everybody. My name is Cody Tatum. I've got Spencer Ramacchio with us as well, Brandon Miller, and Patrick Welsh couldn't be with us today. Our project, as you can see, was with the Lancaster Campground. So just want to talk a little bit briefly about the project that we stepped into, all the opportunities that we saw, and what we were hopefully able to help with moving forward. So just an overview of the Lancaster Campground for those of you who may not be familiar. Established in 1871 as a Christian campsite retreat. And then over the history of the campground has seen pilgrimages throughout the decades and century of people returning to the site for worship and other things. And it's really kind of stayed nestled kind of in the middle of our area, and we've grown around it. So there's some hidden gems on the site, and a really robust community that's kind of grown around that as well. So for us, this campground was really an incredible opportunity to step into and see there were so many different avenues that I think they could be successful with different things. And so we really tried from the beginning to narrow down what were the primary focuses and what could we look to help with. We kind of got that down to knowing we wanted to help build awareness, grow funding, and then showcase what this already had to offer to our community. So to break those down into some tangible problems to solve, the campground has no marketing documents to showcase the venues and other amenities at this point. Brand perception, what is the campground, and is the public allowed to visit? I mean, I know we living in the community, some of us are still unaware of if that's something we can go and visit or what there is to offer there, so we wanted to help with that as well. A lot of opportunities for growth, but where to start? And then grant funding to save some of these historic buildings was another focus that we had. We were very fortunate to have the Lancaster Campground has a very dedicated and passionate director that has stepped on board with no shortage of ideas or passion to chase these. So the solutions that we looked to provide to these problems were about 4 different things. A printed trifold brochure that has been published and we made available and has the ability to grow and adapt as the services and offerings of the campground grow as well. The brand and marketing consultation, which Spencer will talk more about in just a little bit. Strategic planning to focus these efforts to really lead this from the start, and then some grant writing how-tos and hopefully a roadmap to move forward to find some sustainable grant funding for some of those historic sites. So I'm going to hand it over to Brandon now to talk about marketing.
Well, and marketing was one of the big things, because most of us have seen the campground, have no idea what it was. One of the things we talked about was even just the name itself, Lancaster Campground. Well, you can't go there and camp. So, however, it has, that's the basis of it. It has so many things involved, so many things we didn't know that you could do there. They have a great cafeteria, but you can go there and eat. It's open to the public. Just little things as far as, taking down the no trespassing signs to be able to market better that way. And the campground, they've seen this. They've went out. They've hired someone who's in the back here, Colin, to work with the marketing, and we've been very, working with him to get them a tangible product. This trifold. The reason we decided to go with this is because they do have a RV campsite there. They have venues that you can rent. One in particular is the large stage that this talks about, the largest stage in Ohio, where you can do plays. The amphitheater. It's just, I don't know if amphitheater is the word, but the acoustics in there are great. You don't even have to have a microphone. 1,500 people in there, and they can hear it from all over with no microphone. That's a great marketable thing that they needed to have showcased. And a lot of the people that they're going to want to look for need something, they have a website, they're working on revamping that, but something tangible in place that can be put. I know when we talked to James, he said, I would like to be able to go into the chamber and have something in there with our stuff, because everybody else does and we don't. So having something that they could look at, and that's what we wanted to highlight. One, they have a great old historical hotel that is on the National Registry. So they're trying to get that, and Cody will talk a little bit about helping with some funding for that. There's a lot, and it's right there in Lancaster, and we don't realize that it is there. And that's why we wanted to put something together that highlights that, they have a chapel that they're going to be working on, that's outdoor chapel to be for weddings at some point. It's already there. They just have to find the ability to get it fixed up. They have a great place to rent for parties and so forth. On the back is some contact information. We would take you guys to look at this. Hopefully you'll see something like this around. There are definitely things that gives you a lot of opportunities to do some things in there. And I probably should have hit the slide before I did that. So overall, just the RV camping, the event sources. I'm not great with PowerPoints. I like to just talk on my own, as you can see. It has so many different things available. This just touches the surface of it. If you would like to check out their website, you want to go there, James, Colin will definitely give you guys a tour, show you what's available. There's a lot of venues to rent to do things that we don't know that we could even do, as far as having, large groups camp there, or not camp, but stay there in their lodging that they have. Wedding showers, great venue for a wedding shower, Christmas parties, those things. And the food is amazing. The lady that cooked for us when we went over and had a meeting, and she's a chef. She's a RV resident, is there part-time through the year, is very good with that. They can cater and do those things as well. So with that, I will turn this over to Ms. Spencer. Thank you.
All right. So a significant piece of this project involved brand perception, and it was clear when we started that not a lot of people know what the campground is or what they can do there, or if they're even allowed to go. The first step was we got together to determine what would be the largest return on investment. So we did some strategic planning to prioritize all the projects that they were thinking about, not only for our group, but for the campground itself. The next step was we talked about the overall perception of the campground and some of the issues there. The first thing that came up that Brandon had mentioned was the no trespassing sign. So if you drove by there, you saw the no trespassing sign and you weren't sure if you were allowed to go in, if you weren't a resident. So they have since taken many of those down. They were actually up for insurance purposes, so you actually could have gone in the whole time. But they're going to make that whole area more inviting. They're doing some landscaping, so it's going to hopefully look more inviting for people to go in and have lunch and look around. The main takeaway that the campground wanted was to have a trifold so that people could just, on a very basic level, know what they're about. So in addition to giving them a trifold, we also gave them a list of places where they can distribute them, use them, and we also provided direction on how to showcase the campground through its social media channels, potential partnerships and collaborations in the community. And the intention for each of those recommendations to raise awareness was to get people there, have an understanding of what was there, and hopefully be investing in its restoration. So the final piece of the brand and marketing side of the project was bringing in an event venue consultant to see the current potential of the venue spaces and where some of those could be built out. So we brought in Jessica Schubert. She owns Ace Party Rental. She's wonderful. She actually has a connection to the campground. She went there as a child and her mother worked there at some point. So it was neat for her to come out. She looked through some of the challenges and opportunity spaces for each of the sites that they have to rent there. She got some price points and she looked at the value of each of them and just kind of talked with them about some strategy there. So more than that, her guidance really pinpointed areas to focus on for their future growth, going back to the original strategic planning that we had. So a lot of it was just a start, but hopefully it was a good guiding point for the rest of their work.
And so lastly, just want to kind of touch on the grant funding and the opportunities kind of along that line that we found and that they can hopefully move forward with. So we've talked a little bit about the historical significance. The property is home to federally significant, state significant, culturally significant history, just all within this spot of land kind of in the middle of town here. So because of its original origins and because of the pilgrimages and just the history that's been built around it, this hotel that you can see on the picture, for example, houses presidential signatures and ledgers. So incredible wealth of history just within this site. The problem with that is that it needs to be sustainably preserved. And old buildings do not stay bright and shiny forever. And these materials, you know, it's astounding to see what's really there. You walk in and it is truly a time capsule back to periods of time that have long since passed. So the effort there really needs to be the sustainability long term. So what we did with that was looked at really two different avenues: funding sources specific to nationally significant historical monuments, state significant, organizationally significant, and really tried to hyper tailor a list of funding sources that looked for these exact type of things to fund. So funding sources dedicated to historical preservation at a federal level, at a state of Ohio level, as well as within the Methodist community, which is what this was founded around. So really building a tailored list that is going to give multiple avenues to find sustainable funding to really not just preserve, but to open this back up, to share it back with the community, what's been preserved there for so long. The other piece of that was technical assistance. So with grant opportunities comes the grant writing process, which is obviously most of the time very tedious, especially when we're talking about high-level federal grants and things like that. So found that multiple, both free avenues and paid avenues to really help staff build a competency around grant funding, not just for the opportunities listed here on this list, but to move forward and be able to not only meet this need, but to grow with that as well. So our hope is that, you know, with that package together, they'll have the technical assistance needed to produce the grants, as well as, you know, a tangible list of avenues to pursue to get that done. So that is everything that we have for you today. Extremely appreciative of the campground for allowing us to help out. It was a lot of fun, and we get to see a lot of progress over the next year, so that's going to be really exciting for everyone. So thank you.
Excellent job, and thanks for sitting around all day waiting for your turn. We appreciate that.
You need an encore from us too?
Yeah, exactly. So Cheryl's going to help me pass out the last group of awards here. When we get done, let's come up for a big picture, all of us together. We typically do that at the end of each year. So we have Spencer Roncalio. I don't believe Patrick couldn't be with us, so we have Cody Tatum and Brandon Miller. If you guys want to go over and get a picture, I'd just like to wrap up a little bit. I can't tell you really how proud I am of all the presentations and the work that you guys did. You've really done our program well this year. You represented it very well. And I hope you take it serious. It means a lot, I think. You are the 37th year of participants in this program. So it started in 1985. So it's been around for a long time. We estimate that there's over 600 local leaders that have gone through this program over the years and have grown to become real leaders in our community. If you'd see some of the lists that we saw, these are people that end up running organizations, have become CEOs of large companies in our community, and they were sitting in the same seat that you were at some point. So consider yourselves part of a long history, if you will, of community leaders. So congratulations. Thank you for all of your work. And pass on the good word about our program and tell your friends, and we'd love to have some more folks just like you next year. So thank you very much.